With me now, someone who has been on, starred in The Apprentice Season 4, contestant Marshawn Evans. She is also the author of Skirts in the Boardroom, a woman's survival guide to success in business and life, and the CEO of Godfidence.com. So Marshawn, welcome, welcome. Nice to have you on.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
All right, so you have seen the 2005 Access Hollywood video. You have heard Trump's gross language. You were on The Apprentice that very same year. What did you personally experience that you perceived as sexist?
Well, the unique thing about when I did decide to do this show is I looked up to Donald as someone who could be a potential mentor. I think all of us who entered into that environment expected that. But once we went through the casting process, we definitely experienced a different road as women than the men did. For one, in the casting process, during that time, the production staff came to meet with us about our wardrobe. We were explicitly told to dress sexy, to be appealing, and to make sure, quote, that we matched the Trump brand. And so I was not necessarily surprised that when we were in the boardroom that we would hear him make comments about the women and how we looked. He was actually very complimentary most of the time. I didn't personally experience or visually experience anything where he particularly attacked a woman. But one thing that was odd is that you could be in the middle of a sentence discussing your views about why we won or lost a business endeavor, and he would interrupt you with a comment, a compliment about your beauty, about your attire. And it was very odd, similar to the way that you'll see him in the middle of a debate and he just starts rambling and talking about something else. So gender was an issue. It was made an issue very early on, but Donald Trump has always had more in common with Hugh Hefner than Bloomberg and Bill Gates or a different type of businessman. I've always known that about him.
Okay. Two things I want to follow up on in your answer. One, when you say dress sexy, what did that really mean? I mean, did they say to you low-cut tops or only skirts, no pants? I'm curious about the detail.
You know, the most accurate thing that I can say is that there was an expectation that you fit the glamorous lifestyle of the casino playboy that is the Donald Trump, the Trump organization brand. And again, they looked at my shoes, they looked at my dress, they wanted to, and there were certain outfits that they said would not be appropriate. Now, I had just competed in the Miss America competition. I don't feel that I ever dressed in a way that wasn't a strong representation of who I am, but it certainly was communicated to me. My problem was this: when I saw the tapes that were released by Access Hollywood in the same year that I was on The Apprentice, my problem was an attack on one woman anywhere is an attack on women everywhere. But where were the women and the evangelicals and all of the people who were speaking out now? Where were they when there was verbal assault and there were verbal attacks on people of color, on Mexicans and Mexican Americans? Where were the attacks?
No,
well, there's a difference. There's a very big difference. The majority leaders were willing to still stand on stage at rallies and utilize his support when there was an attack on someone who looked like me. But when there was an attack on someone who was not a minority, when there was an attack on a Caucasian woman, all of a sudden, we can no longer support this candidate. And I don't believe that sexual assault is an issue of gender. What I believe is happening now is that we are saying that the veterans, the disabled, the minorities, and the categories of people that have been attacked up to this point have been disposable. We were willing to overlook that, but we're not willing to overlook this. And I have a problem with that.
If I can, and I'm with you. I'm with you every word. But I think it's not fair to say we overlook that. I mean, I have been doing this show. How long have we been talking about Trump in this race? 16, 17 months. I mean, trust me, I have had conversations with people who have been
There's a difference between coverage and consent, though.
Sure. No, but I think I'm wondering, and I hear your point. I hear your frustration that why did it take this tape and this misogyny to finally, get these prominent Republicans to yank their endorsements. I hear you. What if it's just like this 16, 17 months in the making and this was finally the last thing?
I think it's just the way that we have, even in media, characterized the way we talk about Donald. We call it rhetoric, or we call it offensive language, as opposed to calling it what it is. It's verbal assault. It's almost like telling a woman who is the victim of verbal, not just verbal, but physical abuse, that it's just words, which were the words that Donald used during the last presidential dialogue. He said it's just words. Well, it's not just words. It's been verbal assault against African Americans. It's been verbal assault against Mexican Americans. It's been verbal assault against women. And it is not a surprise to me. This tape was not a surprise to me. One of the books that Donald Trump says that he loves to read is the Bible. In the Bible it says, out of the overflow of your heart, your mouth speaks. And I think that we should really be paying not only close attention, but I also told my fellow apprentice that I didn't want to hear a peep out of them. I didn't want to hear them speak up now because they didn't speak up then, and that's the definition of cowardice.
So hang on a second. When you heard this video and you heard Donald Trump say, grab him by the,
yes,
you know what,
right.
You weren't surprised by that language from him.
I was
really weren't.
I was not surprised because I felt the same way when he asked President Obama to show his papers, the same way that elementary schools asked me to show my papers when I showed up as a 6-year-old girl at a predominantly white school, having to prove that I belong. The same way that those who were newly freed slaves had to show their papers to show that they belonged. That's verbal assault. It's been going on for a very long time. I've been feeling it for the last year and a half. I've been speaking out for the last year and a half. My question is, where have the evangelicals been? Where have the believers been? Where have the people who have values? Of course, I understand now that this is political suicide for some political leaders to say that they can no longer stand by him. But what about moral suicide? I think it's just as dangerous.
Marshawn Evans, thank you for sharing your voice.
Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.